How do you analyze the Cowboys? Because as a fence-sitting, lukewarm take type of guy like I am, I refuse to get into this whole, they just choke in the playoffs. They just can't win in the playoffs. And, and every year they're going to win 12 games. And on paper, they're great. And I've run out of reasons for other than they looked like they just choked in the playoffs. So, like, how does Dallas actually get over the hump? Besides, like, they literally do look nervous in the playoffs and play differently in big games.
I think you're right. And I've also been just waiting for this. 12 wins a year is a lot to ask. It just feels like they're not doing a lot of the planning ahead, not doing the contracts. Like the drafts lately have felt like they're filling needs. I thought
Yes.
last year's draft was a big red flag for them because to me they'd been a pretty good drafting team, and then they really reached, I thought, for Mazi Smith and Schoonmaker, and because they needed to fill those guys. And this draft felt a little like that. I know people are higher on Tyler Guyton. Like, I don't have an opinion on that, but it doesn't like a hot take of whether he's going to be good or not. But it's not a great sign that you're taking like tackle 7, who was kind of profiling as if he has a year or two to get ready, and that you need to play him right away. So I've been impressed that McCarthy's kept him at 12 wins, because one of my favorite theories was no team like self scouts worse, like gives out worse contracts to guys that they feel like are stars when they're not actually stars, like Ken Hamlin or Roy Williams or like
Yeah.
all these old guys, and then falls apart the next year, like because they're such superstars in Dallas that somehow like they have one great year and then they can't back it up, and they have backed it up. But it does feel like to me, roster wise, this is the year that it just kind of the floor falls out, and that they're more like a 500 team possibly.
I don't know how often you, as an award-winning podcaster, repeat yourself. I don't know if you repeat yourself as often as I do, but that has been my Cowboys take, is when the needs fall apart in front of them in the draft, aka they needed a corner and Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn went right ahead of their pick, and they were like, I guess we'll take Micah Parsons. And then when they drafted CeeDee Lamb at 17, when they already had Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, the Cowboys picks, when they literally just take the best player on the board, which is subjective, but you go back and it's like, of course, like CeeDee Lamb was a top 10 caliber player, and Micah Parsons was too.
Zach Martin,
right? They just took the best players on the board. I was rewatching the Martin draft. I think that was when Jerry wanted Manziel. Jerry wanted Johnny Football that year, and they had to like lock him in a room so they could run the Zach Martin card in or something like that, I think. But yeah, because I listened to the press conference too, and I heard about Schoonmaker, and it's like, oh yeah, he's a good move tight end. He fits what we do, and I'm like, man, I just don't want teams to just find a guy who fits what they do in the second round. You know what I mean? Like, just you don't need to fill needs, and I'm in lockstep with you. I think when the Cowboys fill needs, it doesn't go well, and when they fill their needs ahead of time, draft the best players. That's usually the best strategy.